everyone. I'm Siddharth Pilli. I'm currently 15-year-old. I'm a developer, data scientist. I'm currently working with Infinity Learn, an edtech company, as a data scientist. I'm also working with IIT Hyderabad, a research engineer. And like I said, I'm a developer. So I got to know about this event on October 11th, and today is September 27th. Today is the event. So I had approximately a month to prepare for this event, and last night I was wondering what I have to speak. And to be honest, I know I have to tell my story, but I wanted it to be something meaningful that can actually change or inspire a few of you to just pursue your dreams. To start off, to coming back to the whole coding thing as well, I started off with this whole data science coding programming when I was 7 years old. Oh, yes. Yeah. When I was 7 year old, of course, every other kid out there, I was very attracted with games. I used to play at least. I had my PS3 back then, so I remember playing GTA San Andreas and all these cool games back then as well. So all the gamers out there would know how addictive that is. So when I play these games, I always had this sort of curiosity, right? Because you see these players, these characters, these graphics which are moving around. So you'd always wonder how were these games even made and everything. And that question actually became what, as a data scientist or as a developer, to what I am today. Because that specific day when I asked this question, I started researching. And of course, I had this online research and everything, so I started researching into what exactly these games were, how these games were created and everything. So when I actually did that, I saw these games were created by the whole concept of coding. And coding at that point was something special to me because understanding with these just few lines of these computer strings, you can actually solve few of the biggest problems in the world right now. Now, that part has really interested me. So with that, I started off coding. So my first programming language I started was with Java. Now, at that time, again, I was 7 years old and everything. So coding with as someone as a 7 year old was super difficult, but also exciting in the same way. Because in online, sure, you had some resources to learn Java and all these coding stuff. But one of the biggest help for me to actually learn all this coding, create my own programs, create my own applications, was my parents as well. My parents are coming from this software background, so they knew a thing, just like a thing, on how they can create few amazing applications in their daily life. So they really sort of guided me into this right path to create these Java programs, to create my own applications and everything. So that was my first exposure to programming. And of course, to all the programmers out here, you know the excitement when you actually create your first print statement saying hello world, and it actually prints that hello world in the console. So that was my first excitement into this adrenaline rushing. Wow, I just created my very own hello world program. And back in the day, Java was like system.out.println and hello world. And for me, coding was exciting from that specific day. And from then, I started creating many more amazing applications. Few were kind of knockoffs of cookie clickers, but others were actually some sort of applications which I believe would have brought change to like different people out there. I created a few student schedule applications, basically helping students to schedule their time in a right way. Few restaurant management softwares, which I don't know how, but a restaurant actually started using to manage the daily, to manage the entire food supply and actually bringing out dishes to the actual customers out there. So when I was actually creating these tech solutions or these amazing these programs out to these consumers who I believe, I started feeling that excitement because I was wondering that something lines of code like 50 to 90 lines of code which I just created is actually being used for some huge tasks or for this huge indicatment of people out there. So that's what really excited me about programming. And then, yeah, I did programming for a lot, and I started exploring into various frameworks like web applications, mobile applications, Android, iOS, a lot of things. But one thing which I was really excited was into AI. Now, this was just back in like 2015, really. And in 2015, NVIDIA, I think NVIDIA and Audi basically had this partnership to launch their very own self-driving car. So when I first saw this self-driving car in action, actually driving in these highways without any human control, I was amazed. Because seeing a machine, because my exposure to tech and programming was where I was actually giving this sort of command. I was actually providing this code so the computer would act in that way. But when I saw the computer was actually learning by itself to drive its own car, that was amazing to me. And that was when I actually first discovered artificial intelligence. And from then, I really started exploring artificial intelligence. I looked a lot into deep learning, created my very own neural networks, looked into computer vision and etc. And then I didn't feel like AI was developed enough in the internet resources which I was working with. So then I had this an odd idea to actually wanting to work as a data scientist in a job. And this was when I was 12 years old. So in 12 years old, Siddharth wanted to work in a software company as a data scientist. And that's when, I just went out there and started applying to internships and companies, seeing if I can get a chance to work as a data scientist. And there were a lot of companies who I sent my resume to. And I get into the call with the companies and they basically say they loved my skills. And they always had this one confusion because my resume specified 7th grade. So when they basically, they started examining my resume and everything, they were confused if I was a 7th grade, like a secondary school student, or like 7th year in actual graduation. So with that confusion, I mostly get rejects out of my interview saying, "Oh, you're not really qualified for this job. Your age is not, very limited." But before they know the age factor, seeing my skills are actually very diverse with Python, AI, and machine learning, they would be really excited with me as a candidate. And these rejections or like what are these interviews and everything, they went on for like 2 to 3 months when I basically was approached by another company, Mountain, and that's basically when I back my job as a data scientist for the first time. And I was sponsored and I was showcased in many news channels like NDTV, News 18 TV, Sakshi, ABN TV, and etc. Because it was first time in the Asia. I mean, even I hadn't recognized at that point because for me, this whole data science AI getting a job was just something exciting for me. Something I just wanted to learn and just display what I'm learning into things that can actually be used in this specific manner. So when I actually found that I'm the Asia's youngest data scientist, all this news started coming in. And I was being a 12-year-old introvert kid talking to news channels, giving your interviews to them it was in another level as well because you don't know what you exactly wanted to say, but you just wanted that message to come across as well. So that was my first job as a data scientist. And then I basically did an internship with IIT Hyderabad as a research intern in AI. Normally in IIT Hyderabad by Professor Vineet and Balasubramaniam sir, he basically sort of given me this chance to compete in this tournament, which is basically this tournament is competed by like 500 plus people were actually competing in this tournament to develop this machine learning model that can count the optimal number of leaves in a plant. And again, 500 members, this tournament was hosted in Germany. So with that amount of contempt out there, I got in second place with 0.68, yeah, thank you. With 0.68 MA. MA is basically this sort of the accuracy level, and my model got placed on the second. And with seeing how good I was in AI, like Vineet and Balasubramaniam, so seeing how good I'm with AI and machine learning, of course, from starting, he guided and mentored me, and from that also, he mentored me to getting best resources into AI, making me one of the best intern scholars in IIT Hyderabad in AI as well. And then I went with Infinity Learn as a data scientist. Now, there was this one thing I saw basically where people said, the company basically advertised saying they want 5 years of experience for BTech freshers. But when I was approached, when I was actually companies were actually seeing me. They saw a 13-year-old with at least 4 years of experience in AI, machine learning, and Python. So that was one of the highest point of actually seeing me as why I'm an optimal employee, at least in the field of AI and ML as well. So then I went with Infinity Learn, and a tech company. And right now I work with them as a data scientist, where I basically create these machine learning models, perform various dashboards analysis to basically better this whole, sorry, to better this students' engagement and also helping students learn better for focusing them on their competitive exams like JEE and NEET. And after that, I went with IIT Hyderabad as a research engineer. So right now, I'm working with IIT Hyderabad as a research engineer with Professor Pradeep Kumar sir in the ERC department for earthquakes, where we're using AI, deep learning, and computer vision to sort of develop these models that will sorry, to develop these models that will help to identify earthquakes and also to help to understand how susceptible is your building to an earthquake. So if an earthquake is actually coming, we can at least spot it and understand what sort of damage can be done to your building. So for people who are actually living in this congested sort of architectures and building, it'll be this early indication that you actually have to move on. So this is what I'm working with IIT Hyderabad as well. Now, of course, throughout these 4 to 5 years, I worked with many companies and everything. And one thing I realized is learning should never really stop. Even for anyone out there, learning is something that should just keep going on. Because even though I was 7 years old learning Python and machine learning, for some actually, they thought you just need to focus on studies. You can think about this later. But for me, I didn't think it like that. I thought of it as a learning opportunity that can actually better my skills because I actually loved programming, so I just continued with it. And that I guess would really go for anything, not only just programming, but if there is some interest or passion which you have into, let's say, music, theater, programming for that matter, it's just something you can just pursue because I think right now, with the growth of internet, with the growth of these mentors who are coming in, getting access to these resources is not really a huge thing. You can just go out there and start learning. And with that, I'll just end off my speech on this note saying innovate today and inspire tomorrow. Thank you.